is very important, because that will either, that could get the pleadings could either destroy have your matter dismissed when you go first. So what's the pleading about? What is this case about? And so it is important to plead your case properly. Plead your case properly. What is your cause of action? What are you claiming? For what? What damages are you claiming? And so forth. And because if you don't do it properly, you will probably have to go and provide better and further particulars and all that kind of thing. But focus on practical skills such as advocacy, negotiations, and legal writing, and pleading includes legal writing as well. So those are important. Addressing ethical issues and professional responsibility, reinforcing the importance of ethics in legal practice, and ensuring that lawyers understand their obligations to clients, the court, and society as a whole. So you are important people. We are important people as lawyers. The moment I graduated and I went home, one of my uncles said, "Well, you are now a leader." And I was thinking, I'm not a leader yet. I'm just another. But then later on, I understood what he was talking about. Yes, I am a leader. You are a leader. You have the ability to change what is wrong with our society. You have the ability to do the right thing by the law to change the general mindset of our people. And that's where you and me as lawyers, that's where it matters. Because we should be set apart from from everybody else. We are meant to be a separate kind of breed of people that are set apart by our training, by the special training that we went through, and the rigorous process of Legal Training Institute at the Legal Training Institute, and also when you passed out, you had to meet certain conditions in order for you to get admitted as a lawyer. You have to be declared. You had to be declared. We all had to be declared fit and proper persons to practice in the law. Because if you didn't, then you'll have to try again. Anyway, so these are ever challenging and ever changing. So we need to be keeping in time with the change of the practice of the law. For those reasons, legal education, in my view, is essential for fostering competent, ethical, and knowledgeable legal practitioners who can effectively serve their clients and contribute to the legal community and the society at large. As I look around all of you here, as I see quite a number of you young people. I can't see the older faces, but I can see a newer brand of lawyers coming up. In the days that I got admitted in 1979, and there was only one girl who was in my class at the time. There were 19 boys and one girl. There were 20 of us. So times have changed. Times have changed, and so it's good. It's been for the better, because women have now made a positive change to what was the normal before, and now more than half of the population at the Legal Training Institute is ladies, are women, and so I'm proud of that fact to acknowledge that. I see those things. I see the statistics and see all of that. I'm the chairman of the Legal Training Institute Council. I know who comes in and who is admitted to the Legal Training Institute. So, and of course, the president of the PNG Law Society, after his election as president, is now a member of the Legal Training Institute Council. I want to emphasize the importance of supporting one another, as I was alluding to earlier. Support one another. We all need to support one another to get anywhere in the area of the law. When one of us succeed, we all succeed. I encourage you all to build networks with one another, create spaces where you can discuss challenges in the community, profession, government, regionally, and globally. Brainstorm solutions and celebrate your accomplishment. Whether you are just starting your career or have been practicing for years, your journey has value and your stories inspire others. Let us not forget leadership. Women need to be at the decision-making table. It is not just about having a seat, it's about being heard. And not just being heard, but participating in the decision-making process. I serve on the Judicial and Legal Services Commission, the body that appoints judges. And our system, I don't know, it's become so messed up and mixed up. When I recommend women judges, I want support from the other members of the judiciary. I'm not getting that support. I've got to admit that to you. And it's the voices and the votes I get at the Judicial and Legal Services Commission. You remember I appointed 6 or so women judges as acting judges, and I was going to make them substantive when I didn't get enough support this time. I had support for them to act, but when the time came for them to be made substantive, my recommendations were to make all of them substantive. I didn't get the support of the other members of the JLAC. So, I don't know, the system needs to be changed somehow so that the voice of the Chief Justice carries. On one occasion, I did say to the other members of the commission that whilst the other members, you may have a vote and you can vote here, the people that are meant to, the people that you are saying no, they're not ready, these are the people who I'm going to work with. Not everybody is going to come as a very top-notch, ideal lawyer. We all learn from basics. We all learn from there, and you bring yourself up. That's how it is. So even if they are not ready, or may not be ready to you, well, they will improve. In 2 or 3 years' time, you will see that, oh, they have become somebody now. They are now writing the law as it should be and it ought to be. And so anyway, that's my dilemma. I hope I can get some of you appointed to the judicial posts in the near future. Okay? So, but I challenge you to take on the roles to continue to do what you're doing to better your advocacy skills, your analytical skills. That's one aspect, ladies, women. Analytical skills is important as a lawyer. Okay, this is one side of looking at it. There are other sides of looking at it. And so which of these sides is a better option for you to put to the court? This I submit, Your Honor, is a better option because it's got better outcomes for this and better outcome for that. And so become more analytical in your advocacy skills. Whether you're advocating for clients involved in policy discussions, your input is invaluable for shaping a more equitable legal landscape for us in this country. I encourage you to think about how you can contribute to the changes we wish to see in our legal system. Together, you can advocate for women's rights, promote gender equality, and create a more just environment for all. In conclusion, I want to express my deep appreciation for the work you are doing. You are making a difference, whether in the courtrooms, offices, your families, or communities. Your commitment to justice, equality shapes not just the profession, but also the future of this country. This country, and I've said it on different occasions, needs you and me. This is our country. This is my country, your country. love it. Love your country. There's no better way to put it than for me to say, love your country. I love my country regardless of our issues, but yeah, because you and I belong here and we will die here. This is our land. Stand for it. God bless.
Thank you, our Chief Justice. There are some key takeaways to take from his speech, one of which is leadership in changing the mindset of one and how that contributes to nation building. And he's also given us some encouragement. I urge you all to take into consideration what he has said. I will now call upon of the Law Society, Mr. Yubet Namani. Please give him a round of applause.
Good afternoon, everyone. Let me first acknowledge the Chief Justice. And I want to make a special mention here that when it comes to CLA activities, you'll always see the Chief Justice attending, and that shows our commitment to basically showing a commitment to continued legal education for our colleagues, our lawyers. This afternoon, before I start, let me acknowledge a very important guest. I think it's been a while that we've really had a learned colleague and a senior person from the region, Dr. Manu Matavai Tupo Rusan, Director General of the Pacific Islands Foreign Fisheries Agencies. It's good to have you this afternoon. I acknowledge you. Also, let me acknowledge the Women Lawyers Association executives, Commonwealth Lawyers represented by our colleague, Mr. Denniston. Colleagues, senior members of the bar, I noticed Mr. Gelling this afternoon, thank you. Importantly, all you, our women colleagues. And I couldn't start my speech without firstly, I've been asked to speak on the rule of law and domestic violence in PNG. And I couldn't start without acknowledging one of the key objectives of the association. I think it's F. One of the key objectives of the Women Lawyers Association, in F, it says to provide pro bono legal services to victims of domestic and family violence. That's a very important objective. So I encourage all you women lawyers, our female colleagues, to join the association because they are driving some important agenda in this country. And so long as I'm the president of the Law Society, I will stand behind and support your initiatives. And so our CLA activities have always been a collaborative effort, and I acknowledge the PNG Center for Judicial Excellence for always supporting us and supporting our initiatives, the Commonwealth Lawyers Association. So thank you for always supporting this, and I'm glad to be here this afternoon to deliver this speech on the rule of law and domestic violence in Papua New Guinea. Chief Justice and colleagues, family and domestic violence remains one of the most severe and pervasive issues confronting our country, PNG. Despite the existence of strong legal framework, such as the Family Protection Act of 2013, the enforcement of this continues to fall short, leaving many victims of violence without adequate protection or recourse. Papua New Guinea is frequently cited as one of the most dangerous places in the world for women and girls. According to the Human Rights Watch 2023 report, over 1.5 million individuals are affected by gender-based violence each year in our country. This staggering figure underscores the widespread nature of the problem and highlights the urgent need for more effective action. Laws designed to protect victims, such as the Family Protection Act and the Lookout in Bikini Child Welfare Act of 2015, are often not enforced, and the initiatives intended to support the survivors, such as the Family and sexual violence units within the police force are limited in capacity. The broader picture of domestic violence in PNG reveals numerous obstacles in prosecuting cases. Many are struck out for procedural failures. In some instances, this phenomenon of snake bail, where perpetrators are informally released by police, further weakens the rule of law and discourages victims from seeking justice. The ongoing violence is a legal issue, but a societal one, deeply rooted in cultural norms and economic conditions. Many survivors of domestic violence are reluctant to pursue legal action due to the stigma attached to them, attached to coming forward, the fear of retaliation, or the economic reliance on those abuses. This reluctance contributes to the cycle of violence, as perpetrators often face no consequences, which in turn diminishes public trust in the justice system. Moreover, incidents of brutal retaliatory violence, such as kidnapping and sexual assault of women in Hela province earlier this year, highlighted the extreme lawlessness in parts of our country today. Such atrocities emphasize the need for stronger institutional responses and community-led interventions to address both gender-based violence and the broader issues of insecurity and impunity. While the legal framework is in place, significant gaps remain in the actual enforcement and support systems. To truly address family and domestic violence in PNG, we must strengthen the capacity of our law enforcement agencies, ensure judicial accountability, and enhance the support structures for survivors. This includes providing safe places, legal aid, and psychological services for victims, while also building community awareness and reducing the stigma around reporting violence. A society governed by the rule of law cannot afford to overlook the rights and safety of its most vulnerable members. The protection of women and girls is not just a legal obligation, but a moral imperative. Ensuring that our laws are not only written but enforced with integrity, fairness, and accountability is essential to breaking the cycle of violence. In conclusion, the rule of law in Papua New Guinea must extend beyond legal frameworks and take root in the lived realities of our citizens. It is critical that we commit to a future where family and domestic violence is no longer and where justice is accessible to all. This will require a concerted effort from all levels of government, law enforcement, society, and communities to build a safer and more just society for everyone. Let me use this opportunity, colleagues, to call us to action. One, as lawyers, we have a duty to uphold the rule of law and stand up for the victims of family and domestic violence. Let us unite in the fight for justice and be the voice for those who cannot speak. Secondly, to my female colleagues, your strength and dedication are essential to this fight. Together, we can break the cycle of violence and bring lasting change to our communities. And lastly, now more than ever, it's time for us lawyers to lead by example, using our skills to ensure that no survivor of domestic violence is left without hope or protection. Let's take action. Let justice start with us. Thank you.
Thank you, President. That was a very powerful speech from you. I personally was touched by what you have said, and I hope that everyone as well has taken some key takeaways from the President of the Law Society, and he has given his support to the association. Thank you, Mr. President. I will now introduce our keynote speaker. She has traveled all the way in from Solomon Islands upon our invitation for this event. Thank you very much. Ladies and gentlemen, Dr. Manuvatavai Tupo Rosen is the Director General for the Pacific Islands Forum Fisheries Agency. She is the first woman to be appointed the Director General of the Pacific Islands Forum Fisheries Agency. She was appointed unanimously by the fisheries ministers at the conclusion of the 15th Forum Fisheries Committee ministerial meeting in 2018. Dr. Tupou Rosen has researched and worked in fisheries for over 20 years, including over a decade as the legal counsel for FFA. She gained a master's in law in 1997 and a New Zealand scholarship focusing on international fisheries and achieved first-class honors. She was also awarded a PhD in law in 2004 and a Commonwealth scholarship with a focus on international and regional fisheries compliance. Dr. Tupou Rosen is firmly committed to regional cooperation as the platform for FFA's success. Please put your hands together and welcome our keynote speaker.
Good afternoon, everyone. Honourable Chief Justice Sir Gibbs Salika, Mr. President Hubert Namani, President of the Papua New Guinea Lawyers Association, and our senior executives of the PNG Women Lawyers Association, the Law Society, sir, to Michelle Penn, the Vice President, and also Vice President Monica Kaupa, to Treasurer Erica Kalmi and your wonderful team, and also to the Commonwealth representative here, David Denniston, to senior members of the bar, and all of you distinguished participants this afternoon, and especially to our beautiful women lawyers of Papua New Guinea. It is an absolute honor, sir, and distinguished audience, to be here in Port Moresby. It is always a privilege to return to your beautiful country. I'm going to start by a message of gratitude, to thank our Heavenly Father for bringing us safely together, to thank our young gentlemen for the beautiful prayer and the strong message that we come together and let's reason together. That's what we do as lawyers. So it's the perfect setting for this auspicious occasion. I also would like to thank our opening speaker. I was really inspired by both these statements, and I'm going to take a moment to acknowledge those. Honourable Chief Justice, we are so grateful for your strong message this afternoon. We are grateful for your message of supporting one another and the theme speak to it in terms of our unity, supporting one another. That's what we do as Pacific people because it's our Pacific. Sir, I promise you, one day Tonga will have a justice who is a female. Thank you, David. With all the wonderful support from people like yourself. And we are confident also with your strong and valuable support that you will continue to grow the women leadership in the legal profession in your beautiful country. So we recognize all of that you do. Sir, you also have a strong message for our lawyers, both women and men, that you are all leaders, and that's something that I'd like to double down on, that every single one of us, and you don't need a title to be a leader, you're already a leader, and that's something that I will reiterate in this short statement. And love your country, love your country. You know, I'm from Tonga, I love Tonga, and I also love our Pacific home. I love Papua New Guinea. I love all of the beautiful countries of our Pacific, blue. We've been so blessed with this vast maritime jurisdiction. We are 96% ocean. Only 4% of our jurisdiction is land, and we know that Papua New Guinea is one of the most blessed with your. We also recognize the leadership from Papua New Guinea in terms of sharing and working with our small Pacific countries. That's something that we always recognize in our FFA work. I also like to acknowledge and thank the President, Namani, for the strong support for Papua New Guinea Women Lawyers Association in terms of ending domestic violence, in terms of zero tolerance for gender-based violence, in terms of ensuring accessibility of justice for all. It was truly inspiring to hear those strong words of encouragement from two prominent men in our society, not just in Papua New Guinea, but in our Pacific home. So I start by acknowledging and thanking that strong women. Women form half the population. We cannot achieve these strides and progress on our own. We need our men with us. Very inspiring to hear from you today. I also congratulate the PNG Women Lawyers Association for the incredible work that you've been doing since 2015 to bring us together for these types of learning opportunities. And also, as highlighted by Mr. President, in terms of the amazing work that you do to help our victims of domestic-based and family violence. And my hat goes off to you because that type of work, it's must be one of the most challenging areas to work in, to deal with families, to deal with women, to deal with children who are victims of violence, and to help uplift them from those situations. So my heartfelt congratulations and strong support for that continued work. Now, as I was preparing for this statement, what I'm going to do is ask our young people at the back to kindly help me put up "thank you," and I'll just check that I'm operating this correctly. Maybe I'll ask our kind gentleman here to help move to the next slide. So as I was preparing for this statement, I went back to the Women Lawyers Association. Okay. Thank you very much. I went back to the women. Hello? I went back to the Women Lawyers Association vision, mission, and values. And I love your vision. I love that it's to unite women, which is why the theme of this short statement is about unity and opportunity. Uniting our women in the legal profession to equally and meaningfully contribute and participate in nation building. What a wonderful vision that we have our women, our mothers, our nurturers united on this cause to build our country. And we know that when we empower women, we empower families, communities, and nations. And this is exactly what you're doing. And I thought it'd be a really important starting point for the short message from myself. And I wanted to ensure that the way that I message this afternoon brings out this wonderful vision. So how do we do that? We do that for our men to enhance the development of women lawyers and utilize our knowledge, all of our knowledge, the analytical skills, the advocacy skills highlighted by Honourable Chief Justice, all the amazing things that we can do as lawyers. It's not just for the courts. It's not just for our roles in our workplaces. Absolutely, you thrive in those situations as lawyers. At the same time, we use those skills for all types of good in our families, in our communities. You know, I've got a 13-year-old daughter. Every day I'm negotiating with her. I learn, I think, my strongest skills from negotiating with my child, and how I can be a strong advocate for when I need her to go to bed, when I need her to tidy her room. So, you know, these skills as lawyers, it goes beyond the everyday tasks that we have as lawyers. Grounded on our values. You know, our Pacific Way, I highlight that again, and it was highlighted by Honourable Chief Justice, supporting one another. No one achieves anything alone. All the successes in our Pacific home can be pointed to many, many, many people and many, many, many generations. It doesn't come down just to one person. I love that you have unity, that clear value, that Pacific Way front and center in this vision, mission of this wonderful association that you're all part of. Excellence, you know, us lawyers, we like to give our best. It's not a token approach. It's not a tick-in-the-box exercise. It's not a half-hearted exercise. Otherwise, we're just wasting our time and everybody else's time. It's putting your whole self into the task. When we're helping a victim of domestic violence, putting our whole self to the task. When we're helping any of our clients, any of our customers, any of our stakeholders, putting our whole self to the task. That is our Pacific Way. Holding ourselves with integrity and respect is highlighted by Honourable Chief Justice, and as we all know with the law, respect for one another and fairness. So I'm sorry to drag out that part, but you know, with our honourable speakers this afternoon, it just brought those messages into my mind, and I'm grateful for the opportunity to start with those. And I'm going to move then to what I was asked to talk about by our coordinator, the wonderful Erica, and her senior executives, Michelle and Monica. And that's the role of FFA, the Pacific Islands Forum Fisheries Agency, and also what are the emerging legal issues in our tuna fishery sector. And I couldn't help but throw in the opportunities, because there's so many. And so we'll also touch on those. There are many challenges in our tuna fisheries, and likewise, many opportunities. In the short time I've been given, I'll talk about this new international instrument that is to protect biodiversity beyond national jurisdiction. I'll talk about climate change and also this incredible initiative that's homegrown, the East New Britain Initiative. And then just some short remarks I was asked to speak on in my experience as Director General. And again, going back to this theme that you will see that is threaded throughout the statement in terms of unity and opportunity. So what we're going to do now, and I've got my colleague here, Simon Kaumi, who is our East New Britain Initiative expert on attachment to FFA. We're very honoured to have Simon with us. And Simon is going to kindly help me play a short video, very short one, less than 5 minutes, just to wake us up a little bit, because I know I've bored you already. But it's a short video about FFA. Thank you.
Our 2050 strategy for the Blue Pacific continent sets out our leaders' vision. Our Blue Pacific continent is 96% ocean, so the ocean is central to our lives. Indeed, it is our lifeline. Therefore, ensuring the health of our ocean and sustainability of its resources is fundamental to achieving this vision and is directly supported by the work of FFA. Our Pacific Forum leaders' visionary decision in 1979 to cooperate in protecting our ocean's resources and establish FFA was exceptional. A decision for our people to come together, to work together, to achieve together. FFA has a specific role to ensure our people will enjoy the highest levels of social and economic benefits through the sustainable use of our offshore fisheries resources. So our people are at the heart of what we do. As Professor Epeli Hauofa aptly stated, we should not be defined by the smallness of our islands, but in the greatness of our oceans. Our members are collectively responsible for around 30 million square kilometers of ocean and over 20% of the world's exclusive economic zones. As large ocean island states, our region is home to the largest tuna stocks in the world, and a third of the world's tuna supply is from our members' waters. $500 million in government revenue from access fees. Exports of tuna at a record high of $1 billion. Employment in our sector at a record high of 28,000 people. But it is never just about the money. It is always about our people. Our fisheries revenues providing vital infrastructure like schools, hospitals, roads, food security, employment, protecting fisheries observers and addressing work conditions for vessel crew. It is the human side of our work. The Pacific is also the only region in the world where the major tuna stocks are biologically healthy. Therefore, from a national, regional, and global perspective, the stakes are always high. So we're committed to protecting our valuable fisheries, hence the significance of the work to combat challenges such as illegal, unreported, and unregulated fishing, and the impacts of climate change. Recently, FFA members have achieved several milestones. These include the adoption of the new FFA Regional Monitoring Control Surveillance Strategy, a crucial step for optimizing compliance with fisheries management and combating IUU fishing. Introducing expertise in climate change, JESI, and strategic engagement into the Secretariat to accelerate these aspects of our work. Adoption of the first FFA climate change strategy and its associated implementation plan. The inaugural ministerial-led FFA side event at COP to raise the profile of the impacts of climate change on our fisheries. Providing FFA's first ever submission to the International Court of Justice on the advisory opinion on climate change. Led by Papua New Guinea, the adoption of the East New Britain Initiative work plan to enhance the benefits from members' tuna fisheries by processing more tuna in our region, and other value-add initiatives to ensure full utilization of our tuna. Commencement of work to establish a regional fisheries development fund for members. Adoption of the first FFA JESI strategy, a crucial step towards an inclusive and equitable fisheries sector. Progress at Western Central Pacific Fisheries Commission to ensure a pathway for a better performing longline fisheries sector. As we celebrate 45 years of cooperation, FFA remains committed to working in close partnership with our sister organizations of the crop and all partners to meet our members' needs and priorities. FFA remains a proudly member-driven organization grounded in our faith, our culture, and our solidarity. Our work together honors our leaders that established FFA. Our work together is how we ensure a transformative, resilient Pasifiki. Our work together is our Pacific way, always remembering why we do what we do and why we must cooperate. Our people, our fisheries, our future.
Thank you very much, everybody, and our kind young people at the back, if you could kindly put the presentation up. So, colleagues, I hope that gives you some insight to the first task I was asked to talk about today, which was the role of FFA, and that at the center of our work is our people. I'm going to move to the second part and talk about this new internationally legally binding instrument known for short as the BB&J, and I'm sure that there are many of you who have come across this instrument. And the long title is that it's an agreement that's been adopted under the United Nations Law of the Sea Convention. You recall that that convention was adopted in 1982, but given that it's been decades since then, there have been some gaps. So since that time, there have been implementing agreements adopted under this 1982 convention, such as our fish stocks agreement, and this is another one. And this is to do with conservation and sustainable use of marine biological diversity in areas beyond national jurisdiction, so in the high seas. It was adopted last June, opened for signature last September. To date, and last check this morning, there's 104 signatories, and out of those signatories, most of our FFA member countries, 13 of them, are signatories, and there are 13 parties to this treaty, and 2 of those are from our FFA membership. In fact, the first country to ratify this instrument is Palau, one of our members. Now, what started this instrument? Why do we need it? There was exploitation being conducted in the high seas by large companies of marine genetic resources. And so is sparked by this concept of benefit sharing, ensuring that it's not monopolized and only benefits going to these large companies, but that it's common heritage of mankind and that it's shared by all. So how do we do that? And that's what's captured in this international instrument. It was later expanded in discussions from marine genetic resources to be more broad and expanded to protection and conservation of all types of marine resources beyond national jurisdiction. There are 4 key areas in this new instrument. The first one, which was what initiated it, is to do with marine genetic resources and the benefit sharing provisions. How do you do that fairly or equitably? The second area is to do with these types of tools that are area-based, such as marine protected areas. But if we think about it from our tuna fisheries resources, they're highly migratory. So you close one area of your zone, the fish swim elsewhere and it can be caught elsewhere. So for many of our countries, it's not the most effective way to manage our resources. So there's challenges in this which we need to keep a close eye on and stay in the conversation. It was highlighted by our esteemed gentleman about being part of the conversation. And in fact, a recent conference that I was fortunate to attend, one of the sons of Papua New Guinea, Mr. Blaise Coemlingan, who works at FAO, I think many of you might know him, he said a quote that he had read, and I love the quote. It says that if you're not at the table, you're on the menu. And so it's a reminder to all of us to make sure, and I think our esteemed speakers had said that earlier, make sure you're not just at the table, make sure you're heard. Make sure that the voices that we're privileged to represent are indeed heard in these conversations. The third part to this BB&J instrument is to do with environmental impact assessments. And whilst the instrument's very clear that the first part, marine genetic resources and benefit sharing, that excludes fish, because we have our regional fisheries management organizations. So there's this discussion about what is the relationship between those two. When it comes to EIAs, those assessments, it's not so clear that it excludes fish. So there's still a lot of discussion to be had whilst this important instrument has been adopted. And very importantly, especially for our developing countries, capacity building and transfer of marine technology. So this instrument is set up like a framework agreement. It enables the details to be determined later by the conference of the parties. So it's set up that it will have its own secretariat, its own governing council, own decision-making process. So when we think about our regional fisheries management organization in the Pacific, the Western Central Pacific Fisheries Commission, how then will the two relate? Because they both have a mandate for the high seas. They both have a mandate for biodiversity beyond national jurisdiction or components of it. And so that's why we highlight to our membership, it's really important that having adopted this instrument with a view to it coming into force in coming months, that we stay part of the conversation, that we're part of even the technical committees that get set up ahead of its coming into force and the commission being established. Because it's through these working bodies that we have our voices heard more robustly in smaller groups, easier there to bring our voice and issues and address them in smaller groups than to go to the plenary of over 100 countries and try to backtrack or try to justify having your voice heard there. So we strongly encourage all of our members stay on top of the legal issues, the institutional setup, the scientific, the economic, political, all the issues to do with implementing this instrument. So given that it deals with the high seas and its resources, there's a clear interest for FFA, and it will require unity. We have to stay together to ensure we address these issues for our people. The other issue I'm going to highlight, and like I said, honourable guests, there's a number of challenges in our tuna fisheries, and I highlight 3 of them here, in particular the opportunities. So more so 2 challenges, because they are so front of mind, so topical in our fisheries conversations, and even in the leaders' discussions. Climate change. Our leaders have stated very clearly for a number of years now that climate change and its impacts is the single greatest threat to our security and well-being as Pacific people. And our tuna fisheries is not immune from these impacts. There is predictions by our scientists that there will be a shift of biomass from the west, Papua New Guinea, Palau, Federated States of Micronesia, Nauru, shift to the east of some of our key stocks. Also a shift in biomass from areas of national jurisdiction, some of that into the high seas. And so the types of questions for us as lawyers is, okay, we've got property rights basically over these stocks in our waters now. How do we protect that? How do we protect that in perpetuity? Lock that in? How do we ensure when we go to the Western Central Pacific Fisheries Commission that we are compensated? We pursue climate justice, ensure that we are recognized because we are next to negligible contributors to this challenge that's been created of climate change. So how is that compensation done? Does it mean greater share of fishing rights on the high seas? Those types of elements. Because we know that with the types of revenue that we're getting today, $500 million in government revenue across the region, that when these shifts happen, there will be shifts downwards to government revenue. There will be negative impacts on livelihoods. Again, it requires our unity to ensure that we stay together and with the greater voice of the greater bloc, ensure that we get solutions that work for all of us in this space. I've highlighted here, and you saw it in the video, the FFA submission to the International Court of Justice, and you will all recall that with the leadership of Vanuatu, there's this request to this ICJ, the highest international body in the world, to give an advisory opinion on the impacts of climate change. What are the obligations of states when that happens? And so we're anticipating this advisory opinion. The submissions from many entities, many countries. 91, the largest ever received by the ICJ, was put in, and the oral hearings are later this year, I believe in December, and then they will give their advisory opinion next year. So it's something that we all look out for. What has FFA done? We've got a climate change strategy that was adopted by our ministers, and also an associated implementation plan, and it's got 6 key objectives, and you can see that pursuing climate justice alongside mitigation, adaptation, building resilience, capacity building, strengthening our countries, advocacy, strong engagement, all of those are really top of mind when we look at this strategy and ensuring that it's implemented well. The opportunity that I hope to highlight here is the East New Britain Initiative, and like I said earlier, led by Papua New Guinea, in particular Honourable Minister Jelta Wong, and hosted in beautiful Kokopo. And that's where our ministers just last September adopted this initiative. And so it speaks to all of our members. It's about ensuring that we fully maximize the use of the fish. Did you know that only 40% of the fish is used for food? So what that tells us is that there's so much more opportunities we can do with the rest of the fish. And I'll show you a short picture, which was in the video as well, which will highlight this better. So in this value chain study, unpacking what are those opportunities that FFA did, it shows that, for example, you could use the cartilage, the bones, the fins, the tails, everything of the fish. And there's many different purposes. For example, you can partner with pharmaceutical companies to facilitate products that are used for health and wellness products. It's those types of initiatives which this amazing initiative brings out. I'm a firm believer in the ENBI because it's for everyone. It's not just for some of our members. It's about bringing the strengths, whatever they are, because we're all so different, and we'll have different strengths and different challenges, bringing all of that to the table and ensuring that this initiative helps everyone. And the way that it's promoted by the Honourable Wong and also the NFA Managing Director, Justin Ilakini, also the NFA Chair, Laurie William, is that it connects all of us. So it really is a wonderful initiative. Now I'm going to talk very, very briefly because I was asked about my experience as FFA Director General. If you're asking me, have I faced any particular challenges as a woman in this role or as a lawyer or in my time at FFA? I've been there since 2005, and the answer is absolutely yes. I think that every one of us have faced different types of challenges, and it ranges from, in terms of the contributing factors, from political to economic to social and cultural. We all face that. The one thing that I would also say is that if you ask me, has it affected the way that I operate? Has it affected my faith? Has it affected my self-belief? At times it does. But you know, you get to a point in your work where you think you're not going to let anything faze you. Because when you let the noise in, it's just inhibiting. It crowds our vision of how we truly want to accomplish our goals, whether it's for our families, our communities, our workplace. And so everyone's challenged by the different histories that we have, the different cultures that we're brought up in, the different work environments that we're in. At FFA, we've got so many different nationalities, and so it's very much about respect and understanding each other and ensuring that goal, vision of serving our people stays front of mind above anything else. What's been a privilege in this role is, whilst there's so much money in the tuna fisheries, and we've been able to reach the record highs. The privilege has been in recent years in elevating the human side of our work in these types of areas, ensuring that tuna continues to contribute to local food security needs, that labor standards, the workforce, the life, the bloodline, the industry that makes the sector work, that the standards are safe and decent, including for our fisheries observers. And also this opportunity to elevate and invest in the gender equality and social inclusion in this wonderful sector. So for the first time, we've put in place a social benefits unit within FFA to ensure that we continue to identify those types of social opportunities. And again, it needs all of us to work on this. I highlight this because whatever work you are in, and it goes back to Honorable Chief Justice's point, you are a leader. You make things happen. It is so in your control. Your situation and what you can do with it, it's so in your control. Your knowledge, especially your legal knowledge, and what you do with it, it's so within your control to continue to be that leader for those that need it so much, and our work together. So there's been significant opportunity that when I reflect on this role, the one huge lesson for me is the significant opportunity when we stay together and work together. It's the only way that we can succeed as a Pacific region. It's the only way we can increase assistance, increase partnerships, help our people achieve the 2050 strategy, and that's how we honor our people. And always remembering why we do what we do, and why we must give it our best. It's always about our people, our children, our future. Malopita.
Thank you, Dr. Manu. Thank you for highlighting the role of the FFA and some of the legal issues that affect Papua New Guinea as well. And thank you for reminding us what we do, and that's for our people. Thank you. Ladies and gentlemen, please put your hands together for her. I will now call upon Ms. Kimberly Kanimba. Just a brief professional background of Kimberly. She started her legal career at the Independent Consumer and Competition Commission, ICCC, in 2014 as a legal officer, specializing in competition law. Then she worked her way up to senior legal officer in 2019. She later became the corporate secretary and legal counsel of the commission. And then she moved over to NICTA